Everybody, Invisiblekatana here, doing a review for the Resident Evil 7 gameplay trailer. I seriously just woke up, so that's why I look like crap. I still have bags under my eyes because I just woke up, and I got like the notification in my email because I'm signed up for like the Resident Evil, it's like RE.net thing, and I saw that and I was like, well, I'm gonna get up and watch this. So I watched it and went straight from watching this video on my phone in bed to doing this video right here. So that's why I look like crap more than usual. I like this trailer. I think it looks pretty cool. It didn't show off as much as I was hoping because it mentioned that it was a gameplay trailer, and they showed off more of what we got really from the demo, if you got to experience that, or even if you got to see it. It showed off a lot more of that, and I was really hoping they'd show off a little bit of the combat, because that's, at this point at least, for me, that's the biggest mystery, because clearly they've changed the game to first person. You know, if you play the demo, or even, once again, if you've seen the demo, it's very much, you know, you walk around and see what's happening, and you know, they show off like the new puzzle element and stuff like that. And I liked it. I really enjoyed it. And, you know, of course people are still mad. It's not Resident Evil. What does this have to do with Resident Evil? And yada, yada, yada. But I'm still enjoying it. I still think it looks good. We still have to wait and see exactly what's happening. If you play, once again, in the demo, I'll just start saying that. In the demo, there is at least a picture of the Umbrella Corporation. So this does at least tie into that. And, you know, it is the next game within the storyline. They haven't gotten rid of anything. It is just the next step. And, you know, we got a little bit of a clue as to, you know, who we should expect in this game. And the big thing I'm curious about is whether or not we're looking at the present or if we're looking at the past. Because in the demo, that's the big thing, is that you play as a character in this house, and then when you put in the videotape, you jump through, you know, basically you jump through time and you go into the past and you play a different character. So we have this nameless female character, but she mentions a male character, Ethan. And I'm assuming, you know, obviously they have some sort of relationship, but the big question is whether or not she's in the past or the present. And I would assume she's in the past, and then we jump to the present, and, you know, that's where the male character comes in, but we still get both these characters. And maybe they're brother and sister or something like that. I think that would be a cool relation to have, because we only have like one brother-sister combo. I'd actually kind of like to see another brother and sister pair show up in the game. And we really, especially because Claire and Chris are only in one game together. Like, they always kind of reference each other through the games. Like, that's the reason Claire even shows up in the second game, is that she's looking for Chris. But they aren't in a game together except for Code Veronica. That's the only game they're in together. And other than that, they might reference each other, but that's really it. And they could have been in 6, but for whatever reason, they put Helena in there when... I mean, I understand it not being Claire, because she wasn't, you know, like a presidential security guard or whatever, but it totally made Helena look just like Claire. Didn't need to do that. But anyway, I like this idea. You know, it kind of goes around the whole thing. And what's interesting is that I feel like they skip over some of the stuff, because there are boxes in here. Like, I'm at the scene where she's hiding behind a box, and they're the same boxes from the demo, and I'm like, okay, they're choosing to skip over even this character having a knife or something like that, I would assume, at least. I mean, this could be just a portion where you don't have any weapons, and you have to figure it out and, you know, survive. And it's very much, you know, it's very different from the other Resident Evil games, because it is very much, you know, you have, at least in this portion, you have no weapons and you do have to hide. And it is reminiscent of games like Amnesia or Outlast and stuff like that. And, you know, that's why I kind of want to see where they are going to give us like the action elements of this trailer, or of this game in general, really. But I still like the trailer. I still think it looks cool. I love the design of the location, because the first thing I noticed when they kind of started off is with the character going through the gate and like going across this bridge, the first thing that comes to mind, honestly, is a mansion from Resident Evil. It makes me think of the very first Resident Evil, actually, because like she's pushing through this gate, and then she's like across this creepy wooden bridge, and it looks like she's walking over water, and there's all these little dummies and stuff. And that makes me think of the first Resident Evil game, especially if you play the remake. For sure the remake, it makes me think of that. And that's freaking great as far as I'm concerned. I highly doubt this will have anything to do with Lisa Trevor, but that's what I was thinking of for like huge fans of the Resident Evil franchise. I kept thinking of her from the first game, or at least the remake of the game. And I was like, man, that's all I can think of is Lisa Trevor. I know this one. I'm assuming this won't have anything to do with her, or even like distant relatives or anything like that. But that's what I kept thinking of. Like it's this female character walking around with this lantern slowly, and you kind of have to just try to hide. Like that's pretty much all you can do. And I like it. I think it looks cool. It's, you know, for people who may not know this, the demo, if you, once again, the demo period, is not actually a part of the main game. It's kind of like, it's really like a prologue. I mean, like it's even called that if you know, look at the title for it. So none of that stuff is actually in the game. They might have references to it, you know, by the time the actual game comes out, but none of that is actually going to be in the game or has anything. It has stuff to do with the story, but it was just kind of to show off, this is what the game is going to be like. This is at least a bit of a clue as to what the game is going to be like. And I do believe that family is still the main thing about the game, because this shows off a female character who I'm pretty sure is the mother. And in the demo, there is a painting, and there's the father who a lot of people have speculated that's the father that attacks you in the demo. And then there's also a mother in there. And then there's a female character who seems like she'd be the younger, like the daughter of these two people. And she seems like the really crazy one at like the very end of the demo that like stabs the dude in the back. And she doesn't say anything. She kind of just screams in your face and the demo cuts off. And she's like the ghostly figure, and it seems like a young or like a teenage girl. So I think that's kind of the point of this, is to actually show off like it's not just going to end up being the dad either. It really is this entire family that's kind of crazy. So it's the dad, and it's going to be, you know, they focus on the mom in this trailer. And so we might get the next trailer, it'll actually show off this young girl. Because that was the big thing about the demo as well, is that, you know, she kind of shows up at random and it's kind of like ghostly and stuff. So that, I think, had people worried. But I'm pretty sure that was just, once again, a part of the demo just to kind of freak people out. But I like this. This might actually be the same woman. I'm not really sure. Her teeth look just as gross. It's hard to tell, but you know, she actually speaks, so that's why I kind of don't think it's the same person. But it might be. It actually might be the same person from the demo, because she does actually speak. But it's also kind of like grayscale, so we still haven't really seen these characters in full detail. We've seen the father. If you know, look at the footage from the demo, you see that he's like how he looks. But this is very, you know, kind of side profiles of this woman, and every time they show her, she's got this lantern. She kind of just looks like she's dressed in all white, which is another thing that takes me back to like Lisa Trevor from Resident Evil 1 remake. But I love the aesthetic. It's all, you know, this. It's almost like they have acres of land, really, because like going this part where she goes across the bridge, like the beginning of the trailer, it's like she went across the bridge from a different place that had a giant gate, and then she goes into like this crazy house which looks really messed up. Like there are parts of the floor missing and stuff like that, which I really love that as well. It's like you can see down to other floors, and it's like, okay, I can get down there, and that's what's down there in this way and stuff like that. And it's all, the house is all messed up and stuff. I kind of like that idea. I think it looks it kind of just adds it's like a small element, but I think aesthetically speaking, it's kind of cool. It's like these people lost their freaking minds and destroyed like their own house, or maybe if they made creatures or something, because that's been a big theory as well. Maybe some of these creatures kind of went nuts and destroyed the house as well, and so they've like, you know, taken out parts of the floor and stuff, and you can see across. It's like, crap, I can't get over there just yet, but if I go around and do this other thing, kind of almost like aesthetic padding a little bit, but not really. Like it's meant to visually be interesting, which it is as far as I'm concerned. But it's like, man, I have to get over there, and if it weren't for this floor being destroyed, I could just walk right over. It's typical Resident Evil stuff. Little things, just like, man, if this one little thing weren't here, even though I could realistically climb over it or jump over it, like in most games in general. But if this one little thing wasn't here, I'd be able to just hop right over. So then it adds little elements like, alright, I have to go downstairs to go up, and all this other little stuff. And they have this element, or not even element, this little moment where the character's running from the woman, and she goes through this room. And I think that this, especially with it being an actual gameplay trailer, I have to assume this part, it's at 2:13. This probably won't show up great but like this little portion, this little thing right here, it looks like that's a projector to me. And I would assume that if that is really a projector, then that is going to be a portion of the game where you do jump into the past. And maybe you can't do that with the female character right here if she is in the past, which I'm actually going to see if they actually put a timestamp at the end, at the beginning of this. But you know, if that really is the case, then maybe you can't do it there, but you can jump back in time when you're playing as the brother, or you know, maybe that's kind of how they do it. All right, so they don't put a timestamp, unfortunately, because they have that in the demo where it shows off. It shows like the exact date, and it's set in like 2017. So I was trying to see, you know, what they're gonna do with that, but you know, maybe that little projector thing is like maybe you jump through the past, you know, you're playing as Ethan, and then you jump through the past and you end up playing as this female character, and you go through certain portions and it's like, okay, this is where this is, and this is where that is, and this is the section where she's getting chased, and you see the projector. It's like, alright, there's another part where I can jump back in time, and maybe it'll send you to a different part, like even further back in time. There might be multiple characters. It might not just be these two characters. It could be a bit like the demo. Maybe there are certain people that you have no relation to, which I think would be a very interesting thing, because it would just be weird. I mean, it's all first person, so it's a little different, and they probably wouldn't put in those elements of this character can do this and this character can do that, but I don't know. I guess I think that would still be kind of interesting if they had it where it was kind of like the demo, where maybe this tape leads you back to find. I'll just assume that they're brother and sister because that's kind of what I want. So maybe you're playing as Ethan, and this tape leads you back, you know, to end up playing as your sister character. But then you find another tape, you know, later on, like that little projector thing, and maybe that sends you even further back, and you end up playing as a totally different character who's like trapped with another, with a little group of characters that are all like stuck in this house or something, kind of like within the demo where it's three characters that go into this house, and all three of them end up getting, you know, messed up. So I don't know. I think it would be really cool. I'm trying to remember. I don't believe Ethan is the name of any of the characters from the demo. I don't think they decided to change their mind on that. I think they're all different names. But I like this trailer. I think it looks cool. Like I said, the only thing I wish is that we really did get to see some of the weapon gameplay. They decided to go full-on horror, which I don't mind. I'm just very curious because with it being Resident Evil, we all know that it does have action in it. And even in the demo, if you go around enough, you can find an axe in the game and you can swing it around. All you can do are destroy boxes and, you know, mannequins with it. But that was kind of what I was hoping for. I was like, oh, it's a gameplay trailer. They'll, of course, do a lot of the horror, but maybe we'll get to see some new elements. And also, with it being this part of the game that they showed off, it's very clear that they're hiding a lot of the bigger elements of the game, because we don't get to see, not only do we not see action, but we don't see who you'd use the action against, which leads me to believe that they left out all the creatures and they left out the weapons for this. So this was strictly this sort of portion. They're showing that style, which in one regard works because I think it looks great and other people do as well. And then in another regard, with this being the first actual trailer for the game, I know it's going to just make even more people complain because it's like, oh, they're doing like the PG stuff and all that. So, you know, because they didn't show any action and they're showing the hiding and stuff like that. So I definitely see that people are going to start complaining because they decided to go, you know, full horror with it, especially with the hiding stuff. So I know people are going to complain about that. But as far as I'm concerned, this looks good. I've already accepted it, especially after having played the demo. I definitely was like, oh, well, you know, the first person thing, I do wish it was third person. And it really depends on this game, because depending on what they do, these characters, you know, because I'm very curious if they're going to decide to stick with first person permanently, or if they're going to switch it up, because they've been changing things up since 4. Since 4 came out, 4 was like the big change. 5 was different because it was the first for co-op. Of course, 6 is different because it was like you have technically 4 different campaigns. And then, you know, Revelations 1 and 2 were the ones that kind of harken back to the old school style. And even those are co-op, but they totally work because they're still, you know, scary games and stuff. And they're definitely fun. If you haven't played the Revelations games, I highly recommend them. They're really good games. So this does have me curious, you know, the future of the franchise. But for now, you know, having experienced the demo myself and, it being super super creepy, and loving the videotape mechanic as a new element of puzzles within the game. I'm enjoying this. I like this trailer. The only thing that's missing, of course, are the creatures that we're gonna fight and some of the action, and that's probably why, because maybe the creatures show up in the present, but in the past it's just this female character, and we of course have to get the story why either of these people. Well, Ethan, if he's the one in the present and he is looking for his sister, then we know why he's in the house, but we really don't know why is this woman in the house. Is it going to be similar to the demo where it's just a group of people like, hey, let's, like a horror movie sort of thing, hey, here's this abandoned house or whatever, let's check it out, and then it turns out not to be so abandoned. So still have to wait for some more information. I don't know when the next part of the demo is coming out, but they have put out an email. They put this out a long time ago if you signed up for that ambassador thing at the end of the Resident Evil 7 demo. They sent out an email a while ago, which I even did a video on it because I got so excited. But they mentioned that there will be more to come, like the dummy finger and stuff like that. There's going to be more to come for this demo. So they're going to be adding another element to the demo, and we'll get to see more of the gameplay. And maybe that will allow us to get like the action portion of the demo, or just of the game in general. So I am looking forward to that. I mean, we have until January, so it'll be out within the next couple of months, the second portion of the demo. So I'm really excited for that. They'll probably do it sooner rather than later, but either way, I'm super excited for it. It comes out January 24th, I believe it was. So I'm super excited for it. I can't wait to see the next demo. I really, that's really the big thing now. It's like we have at least a name for one of the characters. We have more to look at, and it is January 24th. So we have one of the characters' names. We have the fact that there are at least two characters. So we have a male and a female character. We have this mother walking around with this lantern and stuff, like trying to find the female character in this trailer. And we get to see a lot of this house, and I think it looks great. I mean, it's very creepy. It's all just like this wooden house and a bunch of boxes and little stuff, and it's just very very creepy. And someone mentioned, and I kind of love this comment. They mentioned that this seems like more of a reboot of the video game Sweet Home, which is kind of a full circle sort of thing, because Sweet Home is like the inspiration for Resident Evil, and so they mentioned like it kind of looks like a reboot of that, which kind of works perfectly. In an odd sense, that would mean that they've come full circle. So if this is a huge, it's like if this one is more inspired by Sweet Home than the first Resident Evil game, which would be kind of hard to do because the first Resident Evil game is basically Sweet Home, and Sweet Home is like an NES game, like that's an 8-bit game, but it has all the same stuff. Like it's like a group of people in a mansion. It has the door loading screen stuff and all that. Like a lot of that was taken from Sweet Home and put into Resident Evil. So it kind of works in that regard. Like if that were the case, kind of be it would kind of be like a full circle thing, which I think is really cool. But in general, I gotta say I really love this freaking trailer. I think it looks really good. Like I said, literally the only thing I want to see now is the combat. How actiony is it gonna get? Is it going to be, more Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3 action, or is it going to be more 4, 5, and 6 action? So that's kind of the big question at this point. I would assume, I would like to hope, based on what we've seen, that it'll be much more reminiscent of 1, 2, and 3. And even the Revelations games, you don't get like a ton of ammo. I think they changed, even Revelations 2, I think it's harder than Revelations 1 as far as ammo and stuff like that. And sometimes they just throw a bunch of enemies and it's like, there goes all your ammo, so try to, now just cut people and take off. So I feel like it might be more like that, just based on these characters not being the main characters who probably walk around, holding guns 24/7, based, considering all their experiences. Every Resident Evil character should always be carrying a gun, just because of what their lives are like. So these characters probably aren't like that. They'll probably find random bullets here and there throughout the house, and like the hatchet stuff. Those might be our main weapons, really, like knives and blades. So we'll really have to see. But like I said, I enjoyed this trailer. Of course, I would love to know what you guys think about this one. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts of it, your least favorite parts of it. Definitely want to know what you want to see next from the second part of, or not the second part, but the second trailer that we're gonna get, because like I said, for me, it's just action at this point. As far as story, I would like to know more about the story and this family and stuff like that. But I feel like the story is gonna be fine. It seems like it's gonna be fairly simple. It's gonna be these people are bad. It's more about the people you play as surviving than it's gonna be about the actual villains of the game. So I'm not too concerned about the story because I feel like it's gonna be a bit of a lighter story where it's like, oh, we'll find kind of like in Resident Evil, we'll find like files here and there, and maybe they'll have like newspapers and stuff, little stuff like that. It's like that's how we get the story from this game is finding clips and files and stuff like that, and then maybe a little bit of info from the characters themselves through dialogue if the villains, you know, the mother and the father meet up, or little stuff like that. But for me, I definitely want to see mostly how they're going to do the action, how actiony is it going to be, and I would love to see what creatures we're going to get. If it's going to be new creatures, if they're going to go back to zombies, are we going to get mutated spiders again, and you know, stuff, mutated creatures, stuff like that. So really looking forward to it. Like I said, definitely want to know what you guys thought about this trailer, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.